Well, Preston, welcome to the MnRTV Live Show. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great, wonderful. Tell us, since you're a first-time viewer, first-time guest on our show, tell our viewers a bit about yourself and how you got involved in UFOs.
All right. I live in Reseda, California. I got involved in UFO research back in 1986 when I heard about a UFO sighting over Alaska. This was on the news. I kind of just joked about it, but it interested me enough to start asking people that I knew, my family, my friends, people at work, and I got a real shock. I found out that, gosh, almost 20, 30% of the people that I loved and trusted had seen UFOs and were not telling me about it. Honestly, I felt scandalized. I was not happy about it. I felt like these guys were lying to me. They should have let me know they'd had these experiences. And these were not just simple sightings, some of them. My brother chased a UFO across the San Fernando Valley. My sister-in-law, she saw a UFO with 3 friends over Van Nuys Air Force Reserve Base, and later had a face-to-face encounter with what appears to be 2 gray-type ETs. My other sister-in-law had a face-to-face encounter. I had a friend who had a missing time with a close-up UFO sighting. Another lady from work also had missing time after being followed by a metallic UFO covered with colored lights. Another lady I worked with, for years and years, says, "Oh yeah, me and my whole family saw a UFO. It darted around. We all saw it. Watched it for like 20, 30 minutes." And so yeah, this hit home for me. It was not good news. I was kind of hit by a ton of bricks. It caused me to reevaluate everything. And that's how it all started. I began picking up UFO books, hoping to disprove the phenomena, and that's not what I found. There was a lot of evidence for this subject. It had been studied for many years. I was a relative latecomer to it. I started joining these UFO groups. I started hunting down UFOs myself, going out in the fields, chomping through with a flashlight looking for these things, and haven't looked back.
Wow. How many books on UFOs have you written?
I've written 20 books, actually. A number of them are on the paranormal. I do both UFO and paranormal research.
Right, okay.
Because I found out they're connected. A lot of people who are having a UFO experience have also had a near-death experience, or are living in a haunted house, or had a Bigfoot sighting, or out-of-body experiences. It all started to kind of come together a little bit. So this is my 14th book on UFOs. It's the latest one, Inside UFOs. I've written a ton on UFOs.
Have you your latest book? What is it about? Inside UFOs, the accounts of contact. Have you talked to people about that have UFO encounters? Is this what this book is about?
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm so excited about it. I've written a lot on UFOs, and some of my books are not necessarily my own first-hand research. Like UFOs over California covers the entire history of the state, which draws on, of course, a lot of resources, newspaper articles, and so on. Whereas this book, Inside UFOs, is all people that I've talked to, I've interviewed extensively. And these are all my own cases, all involving really sort of major contact, really profound contact experiences. And by that, I would say that would be missing time with a real close-up UFO sighting, or a face-to-face experience, or in most cases, actually, an on-board UFO experience.
Wow. Have you seen UFOs, aliens, we could say, extraterrestrials yourself?
Not until I started researching the subject. Honestly, I didn't believe in them.
Okay.
Never saw anything. I didn't think anyone in my family did. I was wrong. But once I started researching this, I have to tell you, I started having sightings pretty regularly and almost right away. The first one was after I went to a UFO meeting, and there was a contactee there speaking. He's like, "Oh yeah, afterwards we'll go out and I'll show you a UFO." And there must have been 50 or 100 people there at the UFO meeting. About 10 of us go out there, and he's like, okay, let's meditate. And I'm like, oh, darn, that's not what I came here for. I'm just, show me a UFO. But I was just barely open-minded enough to do it. And we all sat or stood in kind of a circle and meditated for a few minutes. And mind you, this is in downtown Santa Monica. Lots of city lights. You can't see a single star in the sky. It's just too much light pollution. And darned if this guy doesn't point to the sky and said, okay, they're coming. And about, I'm going to say 20 seconds later, so I keep looking, this light darts through. Looks very much like, it looked like a shooting star. But for him to be able to point to it and say, okay, it's coming there, it's coming, and it comes, I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So that was my first one. And that was like right away. But about a year into this, I'm driving along on the way home. This is in Woodland Hills, California, late July, I think 1986, 87 or 80, around there,
okay.
89, late at night. And this is a crowded suburb. And suddenly, I see this, what I think is a bird flying towards my car. And it's not a bird, obviously, because it's a round ball of light. I'm thinking, okay, golf ball. But it comes and stops right in front of my windshield and darts back and forth like 2 or 3 times and dips down a little bit and goes straight up into outer space, right up through the trees.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, holy cow. I'm like, what? Because this thing targeted. It came down out of the sky and just came right up to my car, and it was clearly unexplained. And since then, I've had that kind of, that happened again once on the freeway. I've had a number of sightings of unexplained lights, I would call them. Probably my best sighting, this lady I was interviewing has had all these encounters. Everyone she knew had seen UFOs. And I've interviewed some of them. Her son, her roommate, she had friends and family who had seen UFOs, neighbors. It seemed like wherever she went, these UFOs were like just around her. And she had been having onboard experiences. And I'm like, I want to see a UFO. And I was talking to her, and she's like, okay. And she comes back to me later, calls me up, and says, all right, I've set it up. I talked to the ETs, and we're going to go off the freeway here, and they're going to come. They said they'd come. I'm like, okay, let's do it. I honestly did not expect anything to happen. I've done this before, and it almost never works out. But it worked out with her. Boy. Thing I've ever seen. I could not believe it. Just hovering there. Hovered there for a few seconds. We're screaming and jumping up and down, and it sort of moves away off into the distance. And slowly at first darts around the mountain. So yeah, I've had a number of sightings. Nothing I can point to where I say I've had like an onboard experience or anything. Some weird dreams, certainly. Perhaps an alien visitation once, but it's just too vague.
Speaking of aliens, of UFOs, is there like a certain smell that people can report when on board UFO ships?
Yeah, actually. I wrote about this in my last book, which is called Not From Here.
Okay.
Volumes 1 and 2. I wrote an article about this, and I updated it recently as a chapter in this book. And I've recorded about 50 cases of people who've smelled an odor aboard UFOs. And often, in most cases, it's not a good odor. I'll just put it that way. They say it's stuffy, smells like a locker room, or like cheese, or sulfur. This is sort of hard to breathe. It's a phrase definitely I hear a lot. The odors seem to fall into 2 categories. One is sort of a chemical or maybe an ozone type odor, and the other would be sort of an organic odor, which I think is interesting because it points to, one, if these things, if people are smelling, organic odors, that points towards the probability that they're dealing with organic beings. People have actually smelled the ETs. And one described them as woodsy, a woodsy odor. Another person used the same exact word, woodsy. Whitley Strieber, he said they kind of have a synonym-y smell, wet cardboard, but it's subtle for the most part. But also, yeah, these ozone odors, which are usually involved with the electrical fields, points towards the fact that we're dealing with physical objects or machines. So I think these odors do have something to say about what we're dealing with here to a certain extent. And yeah, most people don't smell anything aboard a UFO, or they don't notice it. I have one report of chicken. It smelled like chicken.
Chicken, wow. Maybe they were cooking something.
Right? But no evidence really of that. No, and hardly any accounts of ETs eating really at all. In how they eat apparently is they put the substance on their bodies.
On their body?
Yeah, they kind of rub it in like a lotion.
Oh.
And people said that it smells like, remember one lady told me something like, beans, really? She's like, I tell you, it reminded me of pork and beans. And I was floored when I started to, hear this again. So I'm like, okay, so that's a, little known detail. Right.
This is totally fascinating news, information here. What kind of different ETs are there? Is there reptilians and greys and the praying mantis or any other type of beings?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're listing the main types for sure.
Okay.
The most I get by far is the greys or some variation.
Right.
Which, the big heads, the large dark eyes, almost no nose or lips or ears for that matter. Can't quite tell if they're naked or wearing a skin suit. Some people do report jumpsuits. Ranging from 3 to 5 feet, some not emotional, some definitely emotional and more sort of benign or caring. But yeah, most of them are greys, and that would include, I would say, what I guess call hybrids, or greys that look almost human. Because I've got several cases like that, where people have said that they've seen these things, and they could pass for human on the street if they wore sunglasses and a hat, and covered up some normal clothes. So greys, most after that, it would be praying mantis type. And those range in height. I mean, usually from usually 6 to 7 or 8 feet. One case in the book is actually 15 feet, which I know sounds crazy, but this guy's a Navy medic, a corpsman. He's a trained observer, and absolutely swears up and down that's how tall it was. I call that an outlier because I don't have really any like that. After that, I get a lot of what they call Nordics, or just human-looking ETs, which I find very interesting. I'm getting actually more of those. I think there was a lot more in the past, but sort of the greys, the abduction whole phenomena sort of pushed the contactee phenomena underground a little bit, and it's coming back. But definitely getting a lot of those types of contacts. I don't get a whole lot of reptilian. There are some, but not a lot. And beyond this, there's a pretty large category, I don't know, 20% of unique, what I would call unique beings, robotic or humanoid in some way. There's one case in the book involving a 9-foot-tall humanoid with orange, kind of spiky, straw-like hair and a very broad face. I've never heard anything described like that. So yeah, this book contains the whole different range of the beings that we see. But there's 3 or 4 or 5 main types. Beyond that, it's sort of this catch-all category.
It's why where are they coming from?
We don't know, and that's really frustrating because people have asked.
Yeah.
And people, who have been on board, like, where do you come from? And often we get evasive answers. One lady's like, where do you come from? And they said, oh, we come from a place you don't know about yet. Another asked me, said, well, you wouldn't understand. One guy I talked to, who's in this book, probably my favorite case, he did ask them. That's one of the first questions he asked. And it's very interesting how they answered. He was very frightened at the time. He had, not expected to be taken on board, certainly, and was too frightened to even look around. He was looking sort of towards the wall and asked, where are you from? And they answered telepathically in his head. That's, by the way, almost universal. When someone's taken on board, it's pretty much always telepathic. And they answered by, how do I describe this? That they made the room expand. The room increased in size, which I've heard. I know, weird, right?
Very
I've
weird.
Heard this. I've heard this a couple of times. I mean, several times. And he said this. I'm like, oh, here we go again. And I call those little red flags, sort of, or markers, where I don't, kind of unique details a lot of people don't know. And it helps me to corroborate or verify if someone's telling the truth. And so this room starts to expand. He says it was originally just a smallish room, 20 feet across. It's like 50 and a couple of 100 feet across, and it fills up with stars. And he sees our solar system right in front of him. Earth, the sun, and the other planets. And way, way off in the distance on the far side of the room, there's this red light blinking. And they said, do you see that red light? And he says, yeah. He said, that's us. And they named it. And he wouldn't let me quote him on it. He says he could not understand it. It was just a small, big, long nonsense word. That's what he said. So it was not spellable. He did not understand what the name of their planet. But they did show him. So, I mean, we have some ideas where some of these guys might come from. Certainly the Gray's Zeta Reticula star system comes from the Betty Hill map, and that seems to, I've heard that from other accounts as well. So that seems to be a definite possibility. The Pleiades, Orion has also been mentioned, Cygnus. But, we don't know. And I mean, the reptilians supposedly live underground on our planet and have for a while. And for that matter, all these ETs have been here for a long, long, long time.
So what's the agenda? What do they want over here? What are they here for?
That's the $1 million question. I think we've got a good handle on it now.
Okay.
Having interviewed a lot of people and read pretty much, well, not everything out there, but certainly a good handful of it. From the people I've talked to, when someone's taken on board, and this is borne out by several surveys, most common experience is being examined, physically examined. So their agenda does involve us. They seem to be very interested in us. They know more about our bodies, I think, than we do, as evidenced by the fact that there's several hundred healings on record. I wrote a book about that, actually. So that's great evidence, actually, and I think points towards the positive agenda.
A healing?
Healing.
What do they heal?
Well, you name it. I've got cases of people who are healed of a common cold, of flesh wounds, of diabetes, diphtheria. There's like 10 cases of people who are cured of cancer. A bunch of just, I mean, it's insane. Nearsightedness, rheumatism, paralysis, arthritis. So I think this points towards them having a more positive agenda than is displayed certainly in the mainstream media, which is very fear-based in a lot of ways. And even within the UFO community, the whole abduction phenomenon is often looked upon as being very negative. And I'm not sure it's that way at all. It can be very frightening, and there's sort of a bell curve of behavior, I think, that the ETs fall under. And some people do have kind of negative encounters, but for the most part, they appear to be like scientists or tourists and benevolent. And so they're interested in human bodies. We know that. We know they're very interested in our planet because they've been collecting all kinds of plants and animals. I think their primary agenda falls into three major things. I mean, we see them hovering over mines, so we know they're taking our metals, and that's kind of a side agenda. But as far as their involvement with us, when someone's taken on board, they're physically examined. But if the ETs talk, and which is not super common, I have to tell you, most people don't get a lot out of the ETs. The people I've talked to who have they get messages. They fall into three main categories. And the first would be warnings of ecological or environmental disaster. And this is what happened to that guy, Navy medic, who was taken on board. They told him sorry about that.
That's okay, go ahead.
They told him that when we started exploding nuclear bombs, this caused a great deal of attention to be paid towards us from not only their species, but from a bunch of other species, which is interesting because this coincides with the atomic age perfectly, the modern age of UFOs. We got a huge superwave in 1947, and it just kind of never ended. And they told him that because of that, there's going to be a bunch of disasters on our planet. And actually showed it to him. They showed him all these hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, more hurricanes, lots of hurricanes actually, landslides. And this is something I hear a lot. This is, I'm going to say, their most common agenda is warning us about ecological or environmental disasters. I hear it over and over again. It's really super prominent in the literature. So I think they're very worried about what we're doing to our planet. The second most common message, or equally common perhaps, would be messages about alternative healing or spirituality or psychic development or something along these lines. Case after case, and this turns up in this latest book. People come away from their experience doing channeling or giving psychic readings or doing hands-on healing or becoming a water dowser or building an energy. Well, actually, that's another agenda. But they become very interested in alternative areas. And the third one would be alternative energy. And this is, again and again, people are taken to the engine room of these UFOs and told how they work, that they operate on electromagnetics from our planet, and that it's sort of a free energy type motor. And a lot of these people come away actually trying to, well, not a lot, but certainly a portion, come away from these experiences feeling like they know how these UFOs work and want to build their own UFO motor. So this is the sort of thing we see. This is, I think, their main agenda, is sort of to enlighten us and wake us up and get us to protect our planet and save our species and that sort of thing.
Wow. Do you know what they are? Are they fallen angels? Are they demons? Are they species, interdimensional beings?
Right. Well, I certainly have my opinions. It's still an open question. Right. I'm a big believer that we're dealing with biological beings who are probably from other planets. That's my assessment. I do not think we're dealing with demons, and I'll tell you why. I've studied ghosts. I've studied demons. Right. I've studied all the evidence towards it, and I've interviewed people who've had, horrible hauntings, even to the point of, almost being possessed, or having these things inside them. And no, we're not dealing with the same phenomena. It's different. There's definitely a pattern with sort of a demonic haunting that is just not present in UFO cases. So they're different. They're angels. There's more similarities. And interestingly enough, there's a number of cases where people have seen what they would describe as angelic beings aboard UFOs, or even to the point of saying, oh, it was Jesus. Not a whole lot. There's one case, I interviewed a lady not too long ago, and the ETs told her, oh, a lot of the cases that you guys think were angels in your past were really us. So I think there's a possibility that some of that is true to a certain extent. But I'm not saying that ETs are angels, you know what I mean?
Or fallen angels, like the evil ones.
No, I don't think that's the case. I really don't. Not that all ETs are good. I wouldn't think that'd be terribly naive to think so. But you know what I don't get are cases of people who are being tortured, which we do. here on Earth don't get that. No accounts of sadism or ETs trying to scare people for fun or doing outright evil stuff. I have almost nothing of that at all.
Nothing like about stuff like that they're trying to impregnate women and taking their hybrids away from them?
I do get that. I've gotten that from the very beginning.
Okay.
And I continue to get that. There's a couple of cases like that in my latest book, Inside UFOs. That's definitely one of their agendas. And as the story goes, and I've heard this from, 4 different sources personally. Some that I've read, it's not super common, but supposedly the Greys had a disaster on their planet, which caused them to become genetically damaged, and at one time looked like us. And there's some possible evidence that they're not evidence, but reports that they're us, and they've come back from the future. They're time travelers type thing. Which seems to be a possibility because they're interbreeding with us. And let's face it, we've got aliens that look just like us, which raises serious questions about human origins. I think it really does. It's all a very confusing issue. I still think we're dealing with biological beings. As far as interdimensional beings, well, we're interdimensional beings. We have the ability to do astral travel, to go out of body. We, survive after physical death. This sort of thing. We are interdimensional beings as well. So I think all beings are to some extent interdimensional. That's sort of a trick question, but they understand it really well and seem to be able to kind of shrink down their UFOs or expand them and use all this mind power that we don't have available. These guys can levitate, do telepathy, all kinds of stuff.
Have you ever heard of the Dulce base in New Mexico?
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of first-hand information on it. I've read the literature on it, and there's some very interesting books, some very controversial books about some people who claim to have been inside there, not only as an abductee but as an employee. My assessment is that it's real. Because there's so many darn UFO sightings there. Apparently everyone around in that area knows about it. Talked to people who've had sightings there, some close-up sightings. I've interviewed them firsthand, so yeah, I'm a believer that there's something going on there. I think there's probably a number of bases on our planet. Currently I'm doing research off the southern coast of California here, which is having all this, what you would call USO activity, unidentified submersible objects. These things can go in and out of the water.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And they're in such large numbers here off the coast of Southern California. I've got 100 cases or more. This is, mind you, them coming in and out of the water. Some involving very large numbers of objects. I've got other reasons to think that there might be some sort of alien base there. So yeah, I think there's probably multiple bases, probably bases on the moon. And I know how this sounds. I mean, this is outrageous. But if you look into it, you'll see that the evidence is almost undeniable. It's very to the point of being conclusive at this point. We have so many whistleblowers coming out of the government right now. We've got 3,000 plus landing trace cases. Gosh, I might be wrong about that. It might be like 8,000. Radar return cases, metal fragments. We've got implants, which we have removed from people's bodies, are showing all kinds of unusual properties. Healings, I mentioned, injuries. The list of evidence goes on. The evidence is in the public arena. It's just trying to get a hold of it.
Now, are they trying to create hybrid babies?
Yeah, they're doing that.
The Dulce base. What would be the purpose of it?
Supposedly, that their race, according to what they've told people, they've taken, is that they lost the ability to reproduce due to genetic damage and genetic manipulation and cloning and this sort of thing. And some of them lost their emotions, and they're trying to breed this back in to their race using our genetics, which were their, quote, original genetics. So they do appear to be related to us, and I think they are creating hybrid babies. I don't think they're going to take over our planet or anything like that. I think they've been around for thousands of years. If they wanted to, they certainly could at any time. But yeah, that's definitely one of their main agendas. And been going on for years now. So these hybrid babies, I mean, I had a case in 1988 involving babies. So they would be, what, 30 now? 29 years old. So yeah, I'm guessing they're among us. I mean, I'm not only guessing, we've got a lot of accounts of that, them walking among us to some degree.
Yeah, I've heard that they've walked among us. They've been walking among us. They've been here a long time. Have you worked for a MUFON, Mutual UFO Network?
Yeah, I initially joined MUFON pretty much right away. Became a field investigator. I took their test, which was a take-home test. I thought, okay, it's a take-home test. How hard can this be? It's going to be easy. There was no internet back at that time where you can just look stuff up easily, but it turned out to be a very hard test involving all kinds of questions on photography and weather and astronomy. The UFO history part was easy, but that was really extensive. And so I took that test, joined MUFON, and I became a field investigator. And yeah, I still support MUFON. I've joined all the other UFO groups. I'm not super happy with them. I feel like they kind of just stagnate a little bit. I'm like MUFON. Definitely got all kinds of great people in it, right? But its membership is not huge. And this phenomenon is very popular. So I don't quite understand that.
Because I heard MUFON was bought out by some billionaire named Robert something. I forget his last name, a couple of years ago, and it's been compromised. Have you heard about this?
Bigelow, I think you're talking about?
Yes, that's Robert Bigelow, yes.
Yeah, I have heard about it. And I don't know if that's the case. But I will tell you this. The history of UFO citizen groups is dismal at best. The first one was APRO, the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, founded by Jim and Cora Lorenzen, and became very popular, got all kinds of members, and were investigating first-hand cases. They were the first. They were doing this back in the early 50s and late 1940s. And they instantly got infiltrated by the CIA and were on watch and got put on lists, and they got proof of it. And these other UFO organizations formed. One was, NICAP, and they had similar problems, and it got dissolved. And so I'm not surprised that these UFO citizen organizations are being infiltrated by government. I think they've always been watched very closely, controlled. This is still a top secret subject. There's still a cover-up. It's been a horrible disaster. There's a strong movement towards disclosure, but there's still a cover-up in place. Otherwise, we'd be seeing the Roswell craft in a museum right now. All the bodies we have. It's not just Roswell, by the way. There's hundreds of these craft that we have recovered.
It's not just Area 51.
No. There's Wright-Patterson. There's Norton. There's China Lake. It goes on and on. The military is neck deep in this stuff, and there's a huge cover-up. But people are going to have their pants shocked off of them when this comes busting out into the mainstream. As it is, the disclosure movement is really picking up right now.
Go ahead.
If you look in the public arena, there's all kinds of whistleblowers. I've talked to some really major people, submarine navigators and all kinds of people who are aboard Navy ships and police officers, all kinds of government officials, government subcontractors at Edwards Air Force Base. And that's just me, one guy. Some people, I don't really specialize in that sort of encounter. Some researchers do. And the stuff coming out right now is amazing. So yeah, we're right at a very volatile, interesting time with this whole subject.
Do you think this information is above even the president? Oh,
the disinformation, yeah.
Like President Trump, could he get the truth out if he chose to?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I think he could. You know, he's got definitely an image problem with some people. It's definitely been all very divisive, but he's a maverick a little bit,
yeah,
for sure, and might just do something that would shake things up a little bit. Whereas the other presidents only kind of hinted at it. I mean, Carter said he saw a UFO, and Ford promised to release the material. He never did. Clinton and Obama made veiled comments. Dick Cheney also talked a little bit about it, but no one's come out right and said, "Oh yeah, you know, we know the subject is real." Blah blah blah. They're dancing around it. So yeah, he definitely could. I think it's high time the president does, and just lay this down and let the chips fall where they may. Because if they don't, they're going to lose control of the whole situation. I think it's not only I think there's a movement on the parts of the ETs, honestly, to disclose and get this information out. Their Navy medic I told you about, they told him that, yeah, all the major governments are aware of us. We've had meetings with them, diplomatic relations, trading technology, and not only us, but other races have as well.
In your research, have you encountered any men in black?
No, I have not.
No threats, anything like that?
Well, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have not gotten any Men in Black accounts that are the classic kind with these strange men wearing in a black Cadillac, wearing dark sunglasses, this type of thing. But I've had a number of witnesses I've talked to have had all kinds of problems with, you know, their homes being robbed and UFO material being taken. That's happened several times. Their hypnosis tapes or the account that they wrote down on a piece of paper and put on an envelope and put in a book on a bookshelf. This sort of thing has definitely happened many times. And I will tell you that ever since I got involved with this subject, I have had phone problems with clicking and static and just weird stuff like that. My mail used to come back opened, and it was pretty much always my UFO mail, my manuscripts, my articles, cases. And I'm like, gosh, I'm not imagining this. I actually showed it to other people. My sister, I'm like, okay, I'm going to open my mailbox, and you tell me what you see. And she's like, darn, you're right. This stuff, someone opened your mail. And email problems, too. I was hacked, and one time, someone did call me up and say, are you Preston Dennett? And I'm like, yeah. The UFO researcher? I'm like, yeah. This is right now. I was in the middle of a huge wave of sightings in Topanga Canyon. And it was just a crazy case involving police and all kinds of people. And this guy calls me up. He says he's from the government. Says he's got a top secret clearance. He worked on satellite mapping, reconnaissance type stuff. And it's going on and on about his resume. Finally gets to the point where he starts to give me sort of a veiled threat. Honest to God, he's like, so, you shouldn't get involved in this field. It's dangerous. I'm like, oh, it is? And he's like, oh, yeah. People don't know what they're getting into. You don't know what you're getting involved in. I'm like, oh, okay. And he says, you're barking up the wrong tree. This is not what you think it is, type of thing. I'm like, okay. And he says, they kind of switches tactics. It says, there's no pay dirt in this. There's no reason for you to look in this because there's no pay dirt in it. There's nothing to it.
Well, if there's nothing into it, what are they hiding, Yeah,
I'm like, well, if there's nothing to it, why is it so dangerous, right? So he's contradicting himself in the same breath, practically. That was about it I've ever gotten. I mean, I've had people walk up to my table and they look like government guys through and through. And even hecklers at my lectures sometimes. Like the only guy in a suit, wearing shiny black shoes and a tie. And just slick back hair and that stone face, like a sort of cop face. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but they hide their emotions. And so I've had that. And one that was heckling me. Couldn't believe it. So that's about it. No outright threats that I'm aware of. Just sort of letting me know that they're there, I guess. I mean, my research is public. You want to know something, just ask. I'm sending this stuff out. I don't think I'm a threat to the UFO cover-up, necessarily. I think that's dissolving on its own, and there's agenda to end it. And once that starts, and we won't have to deal with this sort of thing. We can sort of, I mean, there's never been real money thrown at this public arena or attention. It's not taught in schools, not really.
No.
And that's all going to change. This is real. The evidence for it is overwhelming. It's going to go into the mainstream. And I think at some point, we're going to see not only disclosure, but open official contact. And I'm guessing it'll come right on the heels of disclosure. That we'll start having major sightings where they come and like the Phoenix Lights, like Hudson Valley Wave or Gulf Breeze or Topanga Canyon or Belgium or what have you, but they don't leave, or at least stay long enough for everyone on Earth can see them.
Do you think it'll be like an Independence Day type, the first movie? That when you see motherships come down like in the air, and we're all gonna be panicking, and the world's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, I think it is gonna be a little bit like that. I've talked to a lot of people, and they, the contactees that people have had onboard experiences, have told me that sort of thing many times, and say that, oh yeah, they're gonna arrive in large numbers, and I think there are gonna be people who panic, and there are gonna be people who kind of want to worship them and drop everything and call them gods, and some will call them demons. There's, I think, a lot of ignorance on this subject, but I think for the most part, we're just about ready. It's going to be only a few people who do that, who run for the hills with a gun, and like, we're being invaded. Because I don't think that's why they're here. I think that their agenda is basically benign to friendly. But I do think that they're going to show up at some point. We're going to be welcomed into the galactic community, and the technology that we already have is going to become available. The crashed UFOs, the free energy. We don't need to use fossil fuels. If we release this technology, we can solve 3 major crises in one fell swoop: the energy crisis, the environmental crisis, and the economic crisis, which have been ongoing for decades and are controlled by this sort of greedy power elite that won't let go, but they're going to have to let go. This is why I think it's such an interesting time in our society. It's going to be a shakeup like people did not imagine.
Wow. Do you think it's going to happen anytime soon? Like, how close are we to this major disclosure or major mass sighting?
Very hard to say. Feels like ever since I got involved in this subject back in 1986, we're like, oh, the government's going to disclose. And they never have. It's been very incremental. They have, but it's been bit by bit. We fought for every bloody inch of it. But we've had presidents say that they've seen UFOs. We've had governors say they've seen UFOs. We've had colonels. We've had commanders. We've had every level of military official that there's out there. Senators have seen UFOs. You name it. So there is a level of disclosure that's already happened. Paul Hellyer, the
Canadian
big guy, yeah, he's disclosed. He says, oh yeah, they're real. There's 6 races or something like this. And so we're there. I mean, we're at the point of disclosure that I think it's very close. So I think, yeah, I think within our lifetimes, certainly. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. It just feels like it's real hot right now. So I feel like it could happen, very soon. If it doesn't, it'll probably take another 20 years, I'm guessing, the most. It can't go a lot longer than that. Just can't. Someone's going to capture it on their cell phone. These UFOs are going to come flying over a city. One's going to crash or be shot down by the military, and there's going to be 100 people there, and half of them are going to get it on camera because society has changed now. It's an information age. The internet has connected us all in a way that makes news travel faster than it does on TV. People come to shows like yours for the truth because the media isn't covering it. So yeah, I think it's very exciting right now, and I'm hoping it happens real soon.
Do you think that there's what are your ideas that like the Queen of England might be a shape-shifting reptilian, and people in the royal family and people like presidents and people in high power in high places?
Well, it would explain some things, wouldn't it?
Yes.
You know, I don't know if that's true. But on the other hand, there are a lot of cases where people have seen ETs and they're able to disguise themselves perfectly as a human being. So that makes me wonder. And the fact that we have, like I said, Nordics, ETs that look just like us. Nordics, interestingly, are almost far and wide the most benevolent type. And have very normal interactions, human-like interactions with people. And don't get any at all, really, of emotionless Nordics, this sort of thing. Not a whole lot. So I'm sort of hopeful about it. But yeah, I think they're probably walking among us and have infiltrated every level of society. I'd be surprised if they hadn't. Reptilians, I don't know. I do know that there's the greed that's holding our entire planet hostage is insane. And this is coming from somewhere. I don't know who's doing this. These 1%ers.
Yeah, the Illuminati.
Right. But they're obviously doing it. I mean, we can see the evidence of it. Everyone's struggling when there's no need for it. There's enough for everybody. So I think that's on its way out. I think that's the whole agenda of the ETs, and that's what they're pushing, and that's what disclosure is about. And there's going to be a real shakeup. And I don't know how it's going to happen, but the government as we know it, it's got to change.
Perhaps it's a fight between good and evil.
I think there might be some truth to that, because certainly it's evil the way people are being treated. It's just not right.
So there might be bad aliens and good aliens.
Yeah, I don't get a whole lot of accounts of that. There's some evidence of it. I talked recently to a guy who says, "Oh yeah, there are some bad ETs out there that they're trying to keep away from our planet." I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's very possible. In chapter 5, what are the Woj?
The Woj. Oh yeah, this is the name that some Native Americans use for ETs. They call the Star People. This gentleman I interviewed, Stan Hughes, he's since become a real good friend. He's a full-blooded Native American Indian. He says, "I prefer the term Indian, if you don't mind, as opposed to Native American." I'm like, okay. He's a blood Indian from the Seneca tribe in Canada. And he's had these incredibly benevolent encounters with what he calls the Woj. And they started out with what he calls nocturnal lights, unexplained lights. He and his family would go up to Priest Lake in the upper Idaho Panhandle. They'd watch these unexplained lights darting around. And one time they're just watching them. They were usually off in the distance, but one comes swooping down right towards them. It's right near them, 50 feet away, right at eye level. And the little daughter says, "Oh, Daddy, Daddy, they're talking to me," in her head. She's like, what do I say? And he said, tell them you love them. And she says out loud, "I love you." And at that point, this UFO flares up really bright blue and sort of as hello, and comes towards them and goes right over their heads and off into the distance. And he says he's had a number of encounters like this. Like one time he was out at Thunder Mountain camping, and this UFO shows up and starts flashing at him and giving him these kind of feelings of fear. And it would back off, and then it'd get close and be overcome with fear to the point he realized it was trying to warn him. And when he got home the next day, he found out that he had a family member having a severe emotional crisis. So this sort of thing has happened a number of times. One time during a native healing ceremony, they were healing somebody, And after the healing was done, a UFO showed up, and all 50 of the people there saw it. With little lights all around it. It was solid metal craft, and it came to sort of celebrate. But I tell you, his best encounter, he had a face-to-face encounter with these guys, where he's driving along the road. This is early in the morning. It's bright out, bright sunny day, and he pulls over because he starts to feel strange and sort of drowsy, and pulls off the road. This is a dirt road out in the middle of nowhere, up in the wilderness, out in the Idaho Panhandle. And this object drops out of the sky right in front of his car. He says it was a giant metallic sphere about as big as a large room, perfectly metallic like chrome or like a shiny mirror. And out this door opens, and out steps this Nordic.
Whoa.
And he says it was dressed in this blue jumpsuit, silver boots. He says he was extremely good looking, a very handsome man with a sort of Arabic features, dark eyes, dark hair, dark skin. Very good looking, he said several times. And this man sort of looks at him, smiles, and raises his hand. And Stan becomes just suffused with love and longing, and says, he thinks to himself, "Take me with you." And as soon as he thinks that, this guy's smile drops, and he drops his hand, and he kind of gets this really sad look in his eyes. Turns around and walks back into his ship, and it goes straight up, and the experience is over. And Stan says, "Oh man, when that happened, when it left," because he felt this incredible longing to go with him, and when it left, just sadness swept over him like water. He just could not believe what had just happened. So yeah, that was his best encounter.
Okay.
Very benevolent encounters. A lot of the Native Americans that I've talked to.
Now, these aliens or extraterrestrial, is there an agenda to them?
Yeah, I think, well, Stan feels like he's related to these guys, and that they're his ancestors, and that there was no real agenda there, just to say hello. But overall, yeah, I think their agenda is positive. Like I said, they're that's what I see across the board with Greys, with Nordics, with other humanoids. It's always, about warning us of nuclear proliferation, or it's about alternative healing, or it's about, showing us how we can get away from fossil fuels. Several cases like this in the book. When someone has extensive encounters with ETs, this is usually what I see.
Is there any female aliens, or it's just all male aliens, extraterrestrial?
Well, it depends who you talk to. I think yes, when it comes to the Greys, it's very subtle. Some people just says, I couldn't tell you how I knew, but I just felt like this one was a female. And some have said, all right, I knew that this one was a male. As far as the Greys, no one's ever described external genitalia or anything like that. But certainly with the human Nordics, yes, it's very obvious, male or female. Praying mantis, no one's ever really said that I've talked to, whether it was a male or a female. So that's hard to say. Reptilian most of the accounts seem to be of males. I don't think I have any about females. But with the Greys, no, most people can't even really tell.
That would be hard to tell. I mean, if we saw praying mantis, I wouldn't want to stand around to see what it is. I just want to run away. I mean, those seem to be just as fearsome as the reptilians, maybe even worse.
Well, not necessarily. I've talked to people who had very benevolent encounters, and I've got one in the book that is not so benevolent. The lady feels like they were doing operations on her that she did not, want to have, obviously. But another guy, the Navy medic, well, he was taken on board their craft. Finally, he has the guts to turn around, and look at these guys. And he says they were 15 feet tall. They had white skin. They had huge heads. One eyeball was as big as a basketball. They told him all kinds of things. He had a long conversation with them. It was very benevolent. And they actually told him at the end of the experience, you know, do you want to go see our planet? And he said, no, I don't. He was afraid of becoming a specimen. He was still really frightened because they were so big and so intelligent. They just exuded superiority. So he just wanted to end.
I mean, imagine you go on their planet and you never come back. There's no guarantee that you would come back.
There's a lot of missing people every year, and we don't know what happens to them. And I do have a couple of cases where, people have seen a UFO and they're not returned.
Well, the missing people could be for like human trafficking. Like it could also be for experiments and adultery base.
Right. We don't know. It's hard to say.
It could be a mixture of all of them.
Someone who's an abductee does not have a greater likelihood of becoming a disappeared person. So that does not seem to be a huge problem. But that said, there's been a number of cases where people have disappeared after saying, you know, I saw a UFO and I'm not coming back, and they don't. Or they're abducted in full view of people and they never come back. Or say their jet, you know, they're a military person and they're set out to vector in a UFO, and they get close to it and the UFO swallows them up, and that's it. Never hear from these guys again. That's happened a number of times.
Do you think there's a connection with UFOs in the Bermuda Triangle?
Something's going on there. I have no doubt. I've talked to a number of people who had very bizarre experiences there, including UFOs. So I think there is some UFO activity. I'm not sure that it's only that, though, because there is some weird stuff going on there where people are flying around and they can see the shore and there's nobody there, but they're on the radio and the tower's saying, well, we can see you, you know, don't you see us? Or they don't see them at all. Just weird stuff like that. It's very hard to understand. I don't know what's going on there, but I think there is something to it.
Now, if a UFO came to get you and said, do you want to come to our planet, would you go or would you want to stay?
I'm going.
You'd want to go. Wouldn't you be concerned how you would eat, how you would survive?
Well, you know, I'm going to make the assessment when they show up. If they, I kind of want to ask them a few questions maybe first. But if they gave me the choice and they're benevolent and they ask me, do I want to go? I would say, oh yeah. If they say, well, you can't come back, well, I probably might still go if I could leave a note or something.
Okay.
But, I don't know. That's a tough question, but I want to go. Yeah, I'm ready to go on board. I've been chasing these UFOs down. I've seen them. I've communicated with them with flashlights and things, and I've called them down, so to speak. So yeah, I'm ready. If one wants to land, and I think on some level I'm probably already having contact because I do seem to have like regular sightings every couple of years or so. And often it's sort of ambiguous, unexplained lights, but not always. I mean, sometimes I really feel like these guys are trying to communicate with me. I can at least point to one example where I'm sure that happened. So yeah, I think to some level I am having contact. So I would not be super surprised if they did land.
But you don't have like psychic abilities, feeling of being watched, or anything different. Missing time.
Well, I've never had missing time. As far as psychic stuff, when I got involved in UFOs, I also got involved in dreams, which led to an interest in out-of-body exploring. I read a book on it and started doing the exercises, and I actually got really good at it. So I wrote a book on this as well. It's definitely connected to the UFO phenomena. A lot of people are having extensive experiences, like, come away from it very psychic. And so yeah, I've had a number of really psychic experiences because astral travel does that. And I know how out-of-body stuff sounds, but there's an enormous amount of proof for it. It's a universal experience. Anyone can do it. We're all doing it every night. It's really just a matter of remembering it. And yeah, I got real into it. But I don't have any missing time that I'm aware of. I've never had I have had some very close-up sightings. So, yeah, I think to some level I'm having contact. I know they're aware of it. Because I've had weird stuff happen. I mean, like this. I was interviewing this lady. She's having contact, and I'm talking to her. I'm like, do you want to go on TV? Because every now and then I get a television opportunity, and they want witnesses. And she had a great case. She had, multiple witnesses. Her husband saw it. She saw it. Her kid. And she's like, okay, I'll do it. And she calls me like a couple of days later and she's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm like, why? Was it because she's supposed to go on like right away? And she says, well, the ETs came and they got really mad and they don't want me to talk about my experiences. And that told me, well, they know obviously I'm talking to her.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So I think they're aware of my research. I really do. I actually wrote about this. It's called UFO investigators disease. And if you start looking into this, in any kind of a deep, profound way, you attract their attention. And I found that this is true with most of the major researchers that have had pretty profound contacts in some cases. I mean, Ray Fowler, who investigated the Andreas affair, he says he's basically had full-on contact. Leo Sprinkle, one of the first major UFO researchers, says he had an onboard experience. Jim Coral Lorenzen had sightings. Bud Hopkins had a sighting. Philip Imbrogno, he's had a number of sightings. Brad Steiger had a face-to-face encounter with ETs. A lot of researchers are in bed with the phenomenon.
And in conclusion, before we end the show, what are you working on next in your future projects?
I'm hoping, I've got the book UFOs over Colorado that's coming out later this year. Next year, I'm hoping to put out a book about underwater UFO activity. Still kind of wrapping up the research on that. I'm putting out volume 3 of Not From Here. So yeah, keeping busy. But right now I'm involved with publicizing this latest book, Inside UFOs. So yeah, I really appreciate you having me on the show.
No problem. And are you able to tell us your website and where we can get your books for the viewers that are watching?
Yeah, my website is actually, if you just Google my name, it'll take you right there. Preston Dennett. The actual address is prestondennett.weebly.com. I got all my books there, excerpts. You can purchase them through Amazon or Barnes & Noble or other online websites or bookstores. And yeah, I would love to hear from people. You can contact me as well through my website if you've got a question or if you have a story you want to share. Always love hearing from new witnesses. So yeah, thanks very much.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, Preston, and we'll have you back sometime in the future on the MnRTV Live Show. So I want to thank you very much for coming on.
Hey, my pleasure. Yeah, anytime.
All right.
Love to.
All right. So we'll talk soon again. Have a great night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was a great show we had tonight on, wasn't it?
Yes, I really, really, really enjoyed it. Glad it came through, and that's it. I'm glad we all enjoyed it.
Yeah, and we'll be back next week, God willingly, with another great guest, a first-time guest. We won't say who. We'll leave it for you for next week, but it'll be a pretty good show, I think, also next week, like we had a great show tonight. So thank you guys for coming on the show, and we'll see you all next week, God willingly. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching. You people are the greatest. Keep watching. Don't forget, like, share, and comment. And that's it. We'll be back. Have a good night. Bye.